This is Reportplus. Paul, me, Joel, and Christian. We were working over this in the weekend, and the problem that we are approaching is. Can you pass it this? The problem is about documentation. So it all started with a hack that our colleagues started working last year in this hackathon, which was about PDFs and how to expand capabilities around them. But then we really understand and sometimes are a bit frustrated on how we spend so much time building such rich models and such amazing experiences that just get reduced to a printable file. And then this is such a big issue because there's it's also the way that we as professionals sell our work. And this is our deliverable at the end. So I think we're trying to stir the pot a little bit on what sort of a format of the future could be on how the industry shows the value that adds to projects and to society at the end. So if you can go to the next one. Yes, exactly. So I think the problem that we're trying to solve is that we want to have our deliverables as more of a sort of an experience way, and then walking towards a little bit step by step this week and trying to develop something that is working into something that is also more fun to document, to make, to design, and for us to be able to show what we add to the industry. So Christian is going to talk a little bit about the solution that we developed this week.
Yes, so the solution we propose is this program to dynamically generate the reports linking live to our speckle models to tap into the existing workflow. Then we have linked it with Gemini AI to also give some intelligence in terms of how we can add descriptions and other things to dynamically change to reflect how when we're working in the model. So when we do something, it can actually be reflected in the text, not just in the model. Then we've used something called pandoc so from this script we made, we generate markdown files, and then we use pandoc to export it into the formats that we want. So supporting many different formats. Specifically, we focused today on Jupyter notebooks, which are then published on either Notion or GitHub pages, So this is what it looks like. As I said, we tap into the existing flow we're already working on one with BIM models. Speckle is a really good platform for that in that it interacts with many different BIM software, Revit, whatever. Then we have we import those iframes from that into our Grasshopper program, which is incorporating and generating this report. Then we have a little server in Express that communicates with Gemini through the API, so that we feed it the stills and the images from these iframes from Speckle along with some prompts to generate responses that we use in our generated markdown file, which is then finally converted into our desired format, which is in this case the Jupyter.
And I didn't bring a backup video, but I'm quite certain it's going to work. The whole thing is in Grasshopper because it's easy to iterate, but in essence it's a bunch of Python code that does string formatting. So we could also see that as a standalone application that just parses data. We're pulling in a speckle model, parsing it, getting our information out, and then generating this markdown file here. And let's see, that's our automated Gemini prompt that's gonna take this image, send it off to Gemini, and ask it to generate a description. This looks longer, so I'll update our script. And then regenerate. Now we have a new file. And to generate, okay, fine, then I'll rewrite it. This now took care of all our exports into different formats. And the way it's gonna look, and this is just a couple of different examples. So we can self-host it. This is mkdocs. It processes markdown files. We have our live interactive view to our live data on Speckle. We have the documentation that we just had Gemini write for us. Formatting can be adjusted. We're also parsing different layers from the Speckle stream. So here we have something that is called enclosing bulbs. That's their demo model. We are printing tables with information from inside the model. yeah, we have to, that's different layers and different elements that are parsed. I'm not going to go through all of them. But that's all generated for us. If we don't want to self-host it, we can also throw it on Notion. We have the same kind of interactive view here. We can even generate our old PDFs if that's what we desire. The iframes, of course, fall out, but we have, with a bit more development, we can even include old static images. This is the example of a Jupyter Notebook. Here we are now, and I'm just going to demo it in in Visual Studio. Here we are replacing our static tables with information with live tables. So we are querying the database. Here it's installing the dependencies that already are installed, connecting to the database, pulling the data. And now what we have here is Panda tables. And since this is interactive, I can theoretically take the data, and if I now wanted to run some of my own code against it. And I'm not sure, did I have another? Oh yeah, and we can even statically also just, without any kind of bling around it, just save it on GitHub with all the data available. And I mean, we can build on it. It's quite simple script setup, so it can be integrated in CI/CD flows and be fully automated at some point.
Yeah. So that's the final. If we go back to our report, so the slideshow, where we just a few comments on sort of future development, because there's a few obvious ones. So as we mentioned today, we integrated most of the sort of communicative part within Grasshopper. There's many areas where that's not the ideal tool, string parsing, etc. The HTTP requests is a bit cumbersome to do in Grasshopper, but I mean, we've got it to work. So obviously replacing that with something else, Python could be an example, but you can pick your poison. Also, right now the structure of the report themselves is for the modeler, so to speak, to do in Grasshopper. So obviously, step would be to introduce a sort of report template that you import into the program to tell you how you want all this structured. And finally, I think we played around with a little bit was seeing as we're parsing all this when we're talking to Gemini, we're passing it through a server, then if we can save these, both the prompts and the responses in a database, which allows us to keep track of iterations in the work and in the model, so we can actually get a detailed, natural language descriptions of model changes and what we've changed in different iterations. And then again, as we mentioned, finally at the bottom, these different kind of outputs for PDFs. It's not too much difficult to have a filter function to take the dynamic iframes to generate the still pictures and etc. But definitely very possible. Yeah, and that's about it.
Thank you.
I salute anybody struggling to save data from the path of death called PDFs. So interoperability will be the thing of the future, and you are addressing that part. On the report side, so much of it is used for formal reporting for some reason, building code or certification or what might be, but love what you've done in a weekend, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job on kind of continuing from previous project and adding up a lot of value on that. Did you build everything this weekend? And how do you see this kind of scaling to actual usage after this weekend?
I mean, we didn't build Gemini, but built Express and Grasshopper, but
And a lot of the heavy lifting Pandox is doing. Pandox is an open source tool that does conversion between a host of different file formats or text-based file formats. But it's the work of taking out the data, structuring it into. We have Markdown as our kind of base file format and define code cells in there. And then we have special Lua filters that filter out depending on which output format we want to export to. So no dynamic code blocks and PDFs or static markdowns, but to, for example, Jupyter Notebooks, we keep all the cells in there.
All right.
Super cool.
Thank you. No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.